Welcome to the Book of Life, a show about Jewish books, music, film, and web. I'm Heidi Estring. The Book of Life is a podcast service of the Feldman Library at Congregation B'nai Israel in Boca Raton, Florida. Additional support comes from the Association of Jewish Libraries. This entry in our 2009 Book Expo series features interviews I did on the show floor at Book Expo America. This time we'll hear from publishers and authors of Jewish books for kids and teens.
I'm Margie Wolf. I'm the publisher of Second Story Press. One of the areas that is very important to us is Holocaust and Jewish issue books, both for adults and kids. And we have a prize-winning Holocaust Remembrance series, which includes books like Hannah Suitcase, Hiding Edith, which just won the Yad Vashem Award, Diary of Laura's Twin, which just won the National Book Award. And the newest book that we've got coming up is called Guardian Angel House. And it is a true story about a convent of nuns during the war in Hungary who hid and saved 120 Jewish girls. And an extraordinary story written by the daughter of one of those girls, all of whom survived. We're very excited because we already have international interest. A lot of the players are still alive, and the convent still exists. One of the nuns, in saving the children, was killed and became a righteous Gentile. So it's a very special story for all communities. We have also a new book called The White Space Between, which in fact just received the Canadian Jewish Book Award. And again, it's set today, and it's a mother-daughter story, and a mother who has never spoken about her experience in the war and as an immigrant coming to North America, and the daughter who is like dying to find out more and more and more. And on the surface, they have a close relationship, but not really, because there are secrets that they both have. And through the end of the story, some of those secrets have come out, and mostly end in a positive way in terms of freeing both mother and daughter to move forward. The other is called Tell Me a Story, Tell Me No Lies. And it's a wonderful short story collection, interconnected, that is about being the other. People come as an immigrant, and that's why it has both a historical and contemporary theme. You don't always fit in, or you don't feel that you do. And the story is sometimes wonderfully poignant, other times hilarious, and has settings in North America and Israel, and really very lovely book. And it's by a woman named Gina Reutman.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Not at all. I'm very pleased.
Okay.
Great.
And then last year at Book Expo, you were telling me that some of your books were being turned into movies. What's the progress?
Yes. Well, Hannah Suitcase, the first movie, has just been shown to rave reviews at the Hot Dog Festival. So it's doing the festival circuit first. Then it will go to full release this fall. Okay. But the reviews have been extraordinary at the film festival. One of the national news magazines said it's Oscar-worthy in its field. And it's a feature-length documentary. It's almost 2 hours long. The Diary of Laura's Twin is also being made. This is the one, it literally just won the National Jewish Book Award in the States, the Canadian Jewish Book Award, and we also sold film rights, all in the period of like 6 weeks. Wow. It's spectacular, and it's a perfect story because it's kids today looking back at a child trying to survive in the Warsaw Ghetto. People are very excited. They read the book and made an offer within a couple of weeks. So it's moving forward. And as is, the script has been written for Clara's War, also by Kathy Kaser. So it's in fact, a further stage of development. And I like to think it'll come out in fall of 2010.
Wow, good for Kathy Kaser.
I know, it's very wonderful. She's got 2. Karen Levine has got 2 as well. There's also a dramatic feature film of Hannah that's scheduled to.
So 1 documentary and one dramatization. Wow.
I know, and that's for 2011, I think.
Okay.
I know. So it's very good. Thank you very much. It's really very exciting, and it shows that the audience for these books is much broader than what anybody thought it would be. You know, what we find very interesting is that, in fact, almost 90% of the readership is not Jewish. And that means these books are being read, well, we know they've been translated into countries like in Welsh and Indonesian and into Thai, and they're in South Africa, in 3 or 4 Indian dialects, Portuguese, Brazil, Chinese, Hungarian, Polish, all the Scandinavian languages. So they are being read by millions of kids around the world of all faiths and nationalities. And Kathy has been invited to a number of schools where the largest population is Muslim.
Huh.
So it's, yes. Yeah. I think it really speaks to people's humanity and people recognizing what is right and what is wrong. And kids not having the prejudices to recognize what those differences are.
That's great.
Yes, we're very pleased.
Good work.
Thank you very much, Heidi. Great. Could I get another card from you?
My name is Ann Kofsky. I'm the illustrator of Shavua Tov with URJ Press, and it's a picture book for young children about Havdalah. It goes through all the brachot, and it's for 5 and under. And it basically is the same author who did My Cousin Tamar Lives in Israel and Book Tov, and so they basically have teamed us up, and we've done it again. And that's all I have to say about that. The pictures are really cute.
Laurel sent this to me. We did a book with Laurel called Inside the Slidey Diner. Had nothing to do with any Jewish stuff. Right. And Laurel sent this project to me and didn't tell me anything about it. I had a stack of other things from her on my desk that I was slowly and guiltily getting through. And she sent this project to me, and I just laughed. I laughed out loud. I'm Jewish myself, quite secular, however, and I just thought the irreverent treatment was hysterical. But what I loved the most was the ending where the rabbi says to Baxter the pig, "You don't need to be kosher to celebrate Shabbat, to enjoy Shabbat. Everyone is welcome." And when he says everyone is welcome, I just melted. And I just loved the story. And I thought, yes, that is sort of it's a reality and an ideal of Judaism. There are aspects of it that just are not that exclusive to one sort of person or another. Obviously, there are some parts of it that are, but I just thought it was wonderful.
Right, but the idea that everybody should be welcome at Shabbat is perfect.
Everybody should be welcome at Shabbat. And what Baxter goes through is so hysterically funny along the way that I just broke up, and I just bought it right away.
Laurel Snyder is totally an out-of-the-box thinker. She's amazing.
Yeah, she's really fun. And then she tells me afterwards that she had submitted it elsewhere to people who specialize in Jewish books, and they hadn't wanted it. And I was scratching my head, and I can kind of understand that. So that's why I think Tricycle was a good home for it, because we do some out-of-the-box thinking as well.
Right. Okay, well, we sort of started in the middle of the conversation, so go back and introduce yourself and then describe what the book is.
Okay, so I'm Nicole Geiger. I'm the publisher of Tricycle Press, and we've just acquired and I'm working on and publishing in the fall of 2010 Laurel Snyder's Baxter, the Pig Who Wanted to Be Kosher.
Tell me about the illustrations.
Well, we really wanted something very humorous for Baxter. We didn't want to, it's a pig who wants to be kosher, who gorges on pickles and raise a challah and all that. And we needed it to strike that humorous chord without, heading off into caricature. So David Golden has very active illustrations, sort of many layered. I think there'll be a lot of depth to the illustrations. I don't think it's not going to be a sort of cartoony, sketchy look. He's very funny, but there's a lot going on in all of his images. So I think that will be a nice compliment to Laurel's very funny text that also has a deeper meaning.
Yeah. Oh, perfect. That sounds great.
He's Jewish himself, and it was important for us to look for a Jewish illustrator because actually I'm a huge fan of, what's it called? Five Little Gefilte? Five Little Gefilte, sorry. And in fact, we originally wanted, we had Dave Horowitz. But upon reading Five Little Gefiltes, I realized, oh my goodness, all the subtext and all these wonderful jokes we're going to have to feed these to an illustrator if they're not already in the culture. So we thought we really wanted somebody who was in the culture to be able to bring all of that out.
Right.
For that. We don't always do that. We don't always look for an illustrator because of the culture. Because, for instance, in Yankee at the Seder, Adam Gustafson is certainly not Jewish. I mean, certainly he wasn't born during the Civil War.
Is the key more than
he's one of the most amazing researchers. That book was vetted, and we were helped by an expert in Jewish military history.
Oh, wow.
And they had arguments over the number of buttons on the jackets of the Civil War coats, the regimental coats. I mean, Adam was amazing.
Yeah.
So we wanted to make sure that we were able to. We knew this wasn't a research book. This is a book about research, so we thought, okay, what we should probably do is look for someone in the culture.
Okay, excellent. Yes. Thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks for stopping by and for your interest in your great podcast. That was a lot of fun.
Thanks.
Well, basically, let me just tell you what it is, and then you can tell me what I should say. It goes through the celebration of Hanukkah, and actually it goes through all of the traditions for each night of Hanukkah in very simple words and very simple illustrations.
Okay, I see latkes, I see dreidels, I see Hanukkah gelds.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it makes what we think has taken the tradition of Hanukkah and put it into a really simple board book format. So even little kids can understand what the meaning of the holiday is, and that's really what the purpose of the book was.
Okay, tell us the title and author and everything.
Okay, Hanukkah Lights. It's written by David Martin and illustrated by Melissa Sweet. And this is shipping in October.
Okay.
And we also did it alongside another board book from the same duo for the holiday season. There's 2 books coming out.
Okay. And so what's the other book?
It's called Christmas Tree.
Okay, so they're doing a Christmas one and a Hanukkah one. Okay, cool. Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you. And the illustrations are adorable. Is that collage? What is that?
It is. It's illustration, and then she does some layering, so paper layering over her. So it's mostly illustration, though.
Okay, I like the candles, how they look like they're all little cut-out bits of fabric or something. Yeah, it's really pretty.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
David Adler, The House on the Roof. It was one of the first Jewish picture books. First came out in 1976, and it's being reissued for the fall, for the Sukkot.
And why did they decide to do that now?
Because PJ Library picked it up.
Good for PJ Library.
And it's being done by the publisher of Marilyn Hirsch and me, Holiday House. So it brought us together again.
That's nice, since she's
goodness.
gone. Yes. Yeah. Okay, so The House on the Roof, the classic Sukkot story, is going to be available when?
It's available now in paperback.
In paperback. Excellent. So it wasn't a private reprinting just for PJ Library, for everybody.
No. We should delete out the PJ Library.
No, it's famous. It's okay to talk about it.
Oh, no, it wasn't for them, but they wanted to do it.
They wanted there
so
to
it's
be
with them and then
available,
with
so they
Holiday
pressured
House.
Holiday House.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, excellent.
Thank you.
I just remembered the book.
Okay, I'm Donna with Charlesbridge, and the new book this year is The Importance of Wings. It's by Robin Friedman. It's a middle grade novel, ages about 9 to 13, and it's about a young girl. It takes place in the 1980s. She's Israeli. Her mother has gone back to Israel. They're living on Staten Island, and she just lives through the television set and wishes that she could fit in and be a normal American girl, but she doesn't know what that means. But a new friend who's also Israeli moves in next door and teaches her just to be herself.
Oh, that's great.
Great book. Good story.
And that's sort of an unusual... I don't think I've heard of too many stories like that.
No.
Israeli kids living in America finding their Israeli identity.
Exactly,
really
exactly. And there's a historical context. It takes place in the 80s when there was a lot going on in Israel. The author is originally from Israel as well, so it's not exactly autobiographical, but a lot of it is from her own personal experience. It's a great story.
Very interesting. Do you have any other Jewish content books coming out?
Not this season. Last season, this came out in spring of '09, The Mysteries of Beethoven's Hair. It's about a lock of hair, this lock of hair that was cut off of Beethoven's head on his deathbed, and it passed down through generations, and it was flighted out of Europe through Denmark when the Nazis invaded Denmark, and the Danes had to save millions of Danish Jews, and it came to the United States and it went on auction, and the people who bought it at auction, these 2 men, put it through some forensic testing and found out the diseases and what was wrong with Beethoven, his deafness and his death. So it's a very interesting book.
Okay, so that's interesting because, of course, Beethoven's not Jewish, but it sort of has a Jewish context for what happens to that lock of hair.
Exactly. So there's a lot going on in this book. There's history and music appreciation and science as well, forensic science. So it's kind of an interesting book.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Marissa Peterson. I'm a publicist at Flux, and in November, Simone Elkles is going to be releasing a third book in her How to Ruin series. It's called How to Ruin Your Boyfriend's Reputation. And her character goes back to Israel. She made a trip to Israel in her first book, where her boyfriend is in the Israeli army. And a bunch of her friends have decided that they're going to join the army because there's sort of like a 2-week tester program. And they sort of tease her because she would never do that kind of thing. She was like, whatever, guys, I'll show you. And she goes and she joins it. Well, they have to break off into little, like, platoons. And her boyfriend ends up being her platoon leader, and like she's gonna take directions from him in a boot camp style. So all kinds of havoc ensues, and it's gonna be like really great.
That sounds very funny.
Yeah.
And just to clarify for people who haven't read the earlier books, she's American, so she doesn't have to join the army.
She doesn't have to. Yeah, she's an American citizen, but she has family in Israel.
Right.
So she
her father's Israeli, right? Yes.
So yeah. Okay. So yeah.
Okay, that sounds hilarious.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun. It's a great cover too, which I can't show you right now. I can show you right now. It won't help for the podcast.
Right. We could describe it.
I could, yes. So we've got a girl sitting cross-legged with totally camo pants on, great red high tops, gorgeous long pink arm warmers, and a classy scarf, and a red tank top.
That's very cute. And you know, I've noticed with this series and with so many books lately, they show people and they don't put their face. Like they cut it off below the neck and just show their pose. Why is that? What's that trend all about?
Well, in my opinion, it's because it's so the readers can imagine the face of the character. I think everyone usually kind of puts in even a little bit of themselves into the character that they're reading, and so if the character looks so other from themselves, it's hard for them to identify. So it's easy to do that.
It makes them in every person because there's no face.
Exactly, and it's the trend too with her other books.
Right, that's what I was remembering the earlier covers were the same way.
Right.
So, okay.
So, yeah.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Fran. Hi. Heidi Estrin. I recognize you by your shirt. Nice to see you. Oh, I like your earrings. They're books. I have autographs in them.
A black jacket.
You know what? I'm recording podcast interviews. If you want to tell me anything or say a quick word about the
I'm
Tushy
here
book.
to talk about the Tushy book, yes. I found that people are really interested in the Tushy book because it's a lot of fun to read, but also people who are toilet training their children find that it's a very fun way to introduce them to toilet training, talking about the fun parts of having a tushy. Every tushy's in the back. Every tushy has a crack. Where would you put underwear if your tushy wasn't there? And the last page, the artist very smartly showed a little child on the potty. So it introduces the whole concept. And it's very pro behind. So I did it because I had a lot of fun writing it. I just love playing with language, and it's such a fun word, and there's never been a book like that.
Right.
So I'm really happy I did it. And it's interesting that it's a Jewish word, but it's really entered the mainstream.
Right.
I was signing books upstate, and several teachers said they say that to their students, put your tushy in the chair.
Right.
Set your tushy down in the chair. So, it's become a very acceptable, fun word across the board. I like to think of teachers in Nebraska reading the Tushy book. Wouldn't that be nice?
That's a cute image. Yeah. Do you have any other Jewish content books coming out?
No.
Not right now?
Not right now. I had one that came out last year, How Mama Brought the Spring, about making blintzes.
Yeah.
I'm very glad about it. I love it. My mother did make blintzes, although she never showed me how to make blintzes. I had to figure out how to make blintzes. No, my next books are coming out. They're about an Asian girl named Katie Wu. And I've written 12 of them. I'm writing 4 more.
Oh, wow.
They're easy readers for first grade kids. Cool. 24 pages. So.
Excellent.
Yeah, but Jewish kids will like it.
Sure.
I hope.
What's not
it's
to like?
Universal.
Okay, nice to see you.
Okay, we'll do it again.
Okay.
I'm Marilyn Mark, editor at Marshall Cavendish, and we have this great new reissue of The Rabbi and the 29 Witches by Marilyn Hirsch, written and illustrated by her. And it's just this wonderful tale of this rabbi who has to help rid his town of witches. And it's just hilarious, and kids everywhere will love it. Kids of all faiths can really enjoy this book. So we just thought it was the perfect choice for our classics program.
What else is coming out in your classic series?
We have Genghis Khan by Demi. We have an Emmy Kerr novel called If I Love You Am I Trapped Forever. Wonderful, wonderful book.
They're not all necessarily Marshall Cavendish books to begin with?
Nope, most of them weren't. We've tried to pick books that, can kind of still feel current and still connect to today's readers and still read very fresh for them. Yeah, we also have 13 Ways to Sink It Sub by Jamie Gilson and Blackbriar by William Slater. So it was a great way for us to get some wonderful names on our list that we probably wouldn't be able to get otherwise. And,
Okay, cool.
Great.
Thank you.
All right, I'm Andrew Woldridge from Orca Books, and this is the second book by Debbie Waldman and Cindy Revel. It's a picture book. The first one was A Sack Full of Feathers, the retelling of a Jewish folktale. This is Clever Rachel, the retelling of the Rachel in the Riddle folktale. It's a beautiful book.
It is beautiful.
They do a great job, especially with the borders and with the illustrations. I think it will do, hopefully, as well or better than the first one, which did very well. And it was used by the PJ Library for one of their giveaways, and I'm hoping that this one will be as well. So
excellent.
I think that's probably it for Jewish content coming this season, but I think we have another book coming from them next year as well.
From this author and illustrator?
From Debbie Waldman and Cindy Revel, yes.
Okay, and what story are they going to tackle next time?
We're not sure, but they're working on something at the moment. So they're such a great team, and they do such a great job of it. I think actually what they are working on, is a retelling, but it's a more contemporary retelling than a historical retelling.
Okay, because this Clever Rachel is like a shtetl-based old-fashioned story, so they're going to do something in the modern era?
They are.
Yeah. Terrific.
Yeah. So I haven't seen the final manuscript yet, but we hopefully will soon. So.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Fine. Hi, I'm Harriet Seifert, and I'm the author of Hanukkah Haiku with Carla Goodian. And we had such a big success with that we wanted to do another Jewish holiday book, and the logical one to do was Passover. Since we had a novelty format, we tried to do a book that would be in the same novelty format all around the Passover plate, the objects on the Passover plate. And as it turned out, the novelty wasn't working the way we wanted to, and so we ended up with a different novelty, which are called gatefolds, which means every right-hand page opens up, and on the outside of the page you will see now. And so you will see an object that's on the Passover plate, and then when you open it, it goes to then. You might see the flight of the Israelites. There are about 10 gatefolds, and the whole idea of it is to start with now, how we remember with a symbol, and then open up a page, and then you'll see then the piece of history from this remembrance is derived.
So that's great. So it's like you're actually spelling out for everybody what the symbols symbolize.
Right.
So like you could show the haroset and then show the actual brick making or something like that?
Yeah, or let's say we show bitter herbs, and then you open and then you see Jews as slaves in Egypt working.
So the bitterness is like right before you.
Exactly.
Perfect.
I think we obviously have a page of locusts. We have, we did the then really worked out very well. As you think about, I never thought about Passover in these terms to do now and then, and I think visually it really will help children understand this holiday better.
Sounds like a great idea.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much.
Rich.
Rich Michelson?
As for Abraham, and the illustrations are going to be done by Zach Pullen, who did the Alfred Nobel story.
Oh, great.
And like I said, it's about Lippman Pike and his life. It's so early, we haven't started the illustration, so...
Okay, but explain who Lippman Pike was.
He was a baseball player, and I believe the first Jewish baseball player to play professional baseball in the United States.
Oh, okay.
And was very successful.
When's the Lippman Pike book coming out?
Not until the fall of 2010.
Okay. And is that the ABC format that you so often see with Sleeping Bear?
This is a narrative. It'll be same trim size as the Alfred Nobel story. It's a biography.
Okay.
So a children's picture book biography.
Great.
And it's great working again with Rich.
Yes, he's wonderful.
To work with.
Very good. I'll look forward to that.
Well, good.
Thanks.
Well, thanks for coming by. Sure.
Hi, I'm Michelle Babe with Albert Whitman and Company. This fall we have a new book called Happy Hanukkah. Very cute story about a very cute bunny family, boy-girl, twin bunnies who are just old enough to remember that there was Hanukkah but not really remember the details of it. So they want to blow out the candles and all sorts of funny things, and it's mom and dad and grandpa and grandma teaching them about the various aspects of the holiday traditions, and it's very, very cute.
Okay, adorable. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, I'm Jacqueline Jules, and I'm very excited to be here at BEA and to do the signing. When I got here and I saw that big sign, it was really very thrilling to be here. The big picture with Benjamin and the Silver Goblet. I'm very thrilled with the illustrations and the layout of that book and how it came out. Yeah. And I've always been entranced with this story. This story I heard years ago in a sermon. And the rabbi at the end, he says, this story is a true example of teshuvah, that Benjamin's brothers had the opportunity to make the same mistake again, and they didn't. And that's really showing that you've learned something, that true repentance, true teshuvah. And I heard this story, I heard this sermon maybe 15 years ago. And I always wanted to write about this story. And when we first started talking about the Bible series, Judy and Madeline were saying, well, we want Abraham first, and we want Sarah first, we want the matriarchs and the patriarchs. And then after we finished those, I said, could I do the Benjamin story? And she said yes.
So do you get to pick what you're going to do, or they ask you to do specific characters?
Well, usually we talk about them. They were interested in Abraham and Sarah, and I actually had written the Abraham story to tell because I'm a storyteller several years before, and then I made it into a book. And then the Sarah, they suggested, and the Benjamin I suggested, and then the one that's going to come out soon, I'm not exactly sure when it's going to come out.
Okay, but the next one.
The one we're working on now, that's with the illustrator now.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's called. It's called maybe Miriam in the Desert.
Okay. So she's the protagonist this time.
Yes, this time, it's Miriam is the protagonist. But when you tell a story for kids, I mean, Miriam, when she's in the desert, she's already grown up.
Right.
Okay, and so I wanted to have an angle for children to get them really excited about, because children don't always want to read about grown-ups, you know? And so I rely really heavily on Midrash, because I think Midrash is wonderful. And being a storyteller, I've always been thrilled about Midrash, and I've always used it, and I always like to color these stories with Midrash because that's how we teach kids. Midrash fills in the colors and the details for the children. And so I started digging into Midrash, and I found out that Bezalel, who made the Ark, the artist of the Ark, was supposed to be Miriam's grandson. And so I said, well, that's kind of a cool connection, because there's been a lot of stories, Miriam with the basket and all of that, but not Miriam in the desert with the wandering well. And so the story is told through the eyes of Bezalel as he watches his grandmother and how people respect her and how they named the well after her and how she bolstered the people. She kept their spirits up. And it really, when I started doing the research for the miracles in the desert, my God, they were wonderful. That alone. And so the story goes through the miracles in the desert, and then it climaxes at Sinai. And because, the Israelites were grumbling, one miracle wasn't enough, they got to grumble, and then they got another, they grumbled. And how Miriam kept their spirits up and kept her faith, and then it climaxes at Sinai when they hear the voice of the mountain, and at the very end, there's the image, because the Torah says that God told Moses that Bezalel would make the ark while he was up there.
Okay.
While he was up there the second time.
While Moses was up on the mountain.
While Moses was up on the mountain the second time, God tells him all about the ark and about how he wants to be, and that Bezalel will be doing that. And so the very end of the book is the promise and an image, because there have been sketches of how all the Israelites contribute to make the ark. I mean, it does stop before the golden calf, but it starts when Moses goes to the mountain.
I love that approach that is to the grandmother, because then the readers, the children, are thinking about it in terms of not just a famous woman, but a woman who's a grandma, and then maybe they look at their grandma in terms of, what things has she accomplished besides being my grandma.
Exactly. So, it's through the eyes of my wonderful grandma.
Right.
Who's not just wonderful
grandma
to
hero,
me.
not just a woman who's a hero, but a grandma hero. That's great.
Yeah, that's exactly what I like that. Bubby hero, however you want to do it.
Right.
But that's exactly the approach. And
Cool.
I wanted to have a more child-friendly, because, kids will read about grown-ups. They like grown-ups, but they do.
But if it's connected in some way to themselves, that's appealing.
Right. And that was the approach. It's going to be the same illustrator. I've seen the black and white sketches. We haven't gotten to the point where we've gotten to the color sketches.
Do you know what character you're going to do after Miriam?
We're discussing that. I have written a draft of something, but it hasn't been approved yet, so I probably shouldn't say.
Okay. Is this like an indefinite thing? You're not like limiting yourself to some certain number of volumes, are you?
No, we're not limiting ourselves. But each subject has to be approved.
Right.
And
but that's
a new subject
going with it, because it's such a good series. Yeah. I'd love to see it continue on and on.
And last I heard, a new subject will be discussed and hopefully approved in June. And then I can tell you.
Okay. I'll check back with you. Okay.
Thank you. It was great to meet you.
I'm Alison Morgan from Tundra Books, and two of our new Jewish interest titles are Puppet by Eva Wiseman and The Golem of Prague by Irene Watts. Irene Watts has written a number of books that relate to Jewish interest themes. Her series about Goodbye Marianne, Finding Sophie, and Remember Me are best-selling titles. We've sold over 20,000 of each. For The Golem of Prague, she's taken a story from the 1500s and rewritten it. And it's very atmospheric, the writing. And it's the story of a rabbi who's trying to help his people. And he's feeling very desperate, so he goes down to the river and out of mud creates a golem to help protect them. So it's the story of the Golem of Prague. It's based on the original
the old
story.
legend.
Yeah.
It's called Clay Man is the title?
Yeah, because she makes the golem out of clay.
Right.
So,
Yeah. And then is Puppet, is that part of a series, or is that just a standalone Eva Wiseman book?
It's a standalone Eva Wiseman. It's the first time she's written about Hungary. So her other novels focused more on either the Holocaust or North America. In Puppet, she goes back, and I can't remember the time period. Anyway, she goes back in time to the blood libel trials. A horrible period in history that I sort of liken to the Salem witch trials. And it's the story of a young girl who goes missing. And her brother, I think it's her brother, is accused of killing her because they believe that Jewish people use the blood of children to make matzah. So it was the last of the trials that was held, and really tells the story of the history behind that. And then is a great read, focusing on the disappearance of this girl herself.
Is she ever found?
No.
She's never found. Did they solve the mystery of what happened to her?
I think they do.
Okay. You have to read the book and find out.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, so here I am with Margot Rapp.
Hi.
Margot, I wanted to ask you to talk a little bit about Cures for Heartbreak, which was recognized by Association of Jewish Libraries last year. And I know it was somewhat autobiographical. So tell us more about Cures for Heartbreak.
Well, thank you for the Sidney Taylor notable book. It was such an honor since I love Sidney Taylor so much, and those books were so important to me when I was young, and I'm so excited to have my daughter read them when she's old enough. But Cures for Heartbreak tells the story of Mia, who's 15 years old, and her mom dies suddenly of cancer, and then her father's ill. So it's basically about how the family kind of puts themselves back together again after that loss, and the ways in which they don't put themselves back together again. But it's also about humor. I really think so much of Jewish grief is humorous, and it's based a lot on, I also lost my mom very suddenly when I was a teenager. She died of melanoma 9 days after the diagnosis.
Wow.
And my sister and I, and our father too, there was just a lot of laughter. I mean, we're so, terribly heartbroken. but there was a lot of laughter, and it really drew us very close together. So that's a lot of what the book is about, sort of portraying that. I mean, at the time, my sister and I were not getting along at all as teenagers. There's a line in the book that the Mia character and her sister live in between two subway stops in Queens, and they go to different ones. Mia goes to 46th Street, and her sister goes to 52nd Street Station, and that's exactly true. My sister and I would go to different subway stops. So, and now we're so close, and we talk every day on the phone. So it really brought us closer together.
I wanted to ask you about your earlier 4-book series, the Missing Persons series, because every girl I've ever given that to just gets addicted and sucks them all in one after the other, and it's like this Jewish Nancy Drew type of thing, and the hook is really strong and really pulls you in. So I want to know, first of all, if you would ever do something like that again, because it would be great to have more of that. And also I just want you to talk about where that whole idea came from and tell us a little bit about that series.
Yeah, Missing Persons I had the idea for. I always wanted to try to write mystery novels, and I actually sold that series on proposal. I gave a reading from a story that was later part of Cures for Heartbreak at a Barnes & Noble in Manhattan, and an editor approached me about doing a series, and I had this idea about 2 Jewish girls who run away to Indiana, because I had gone to college in Indiana. It was the first time I ever left New York City, and so that series sprung from that. And I loved writing those books, and it would be fun to go back to that series sometime. Maybe I will, or do another similar thing. But I'm actually working on a new book, another YA novel that's coming out from Delacorte, probably the year after next, since I'm still in the process of writing it. But I think of it actually as kind of a combination of Missing Persons and Cures for Heartbreak, because it's a road novel about 2 best friends from New York who travel to California to be on this TV show called Who's the Smartest Girl in America. And so it's also 2 girls from New York who are seeing the country for the first time, although they take a longer route than they do in Missing Persons, and they don't end up staying somewhere.
And is there any Jewish element to that story?
Yeah, the narrator is Jewish, and so it's also her first time seeing what really turns out to be shockingly a Christian country, which is really a shock to me. She actually goes to a town I've been to in Sewanee, Tennessee, where there's this huge cross on top of a mountain. I remember the first time I saw that, I just was like, oh my God. It doesn't make me feel very welcome, Like, you don't really want to see that when you're in the middle of nowhere, and you're like, oh God. So it's an interesting feeling, that whole realization for the first time of what America is and how you fit in it as a Jewish person is really fascinating to me. And she also has, there's a history where her mother and her stepfather met at a Children of Holocaust Survivors social, and yet they never talk about their past. So she's sort of also dealing with that as well, this sort of history and whether they talk about it or not.
Now, it's interesting because it seems like you put a lot of your own experiences into your books, and you were talking about, being from New York and then suddenly leaving New York and seeing the rest of the country. And I know that now you live in Texas.
Yeah.
So that's very different. But also I know there's a strong literary community in Texas, too. So talk a little bit about the experience of now going to live in Texas and what that's like for you and what it's like in terms of the literature out there in Austin.
Yeah. It's interesting. I feel like I'm enacting my own book, but moving out to this very foreign state. I think it's good as a writer to kind of uproot yourself and have that distance. And I love writing about New York, but it's in some ways easier to write about it when I'm farther away. And then I've really loved getting to know Texas. It's really fun, and it's an interesting community. And it's a great book town, and I love the bookstore book people, and there's been a really great community of writers there. So, and I went to the rodeo too. That was really fun.
What is it like being Jewish in Austin, Texas? Does it feel very different from being Jewish in New York?
It does. I feel like, because in New York you just take it for granted that it's everywhere all around you, and in a place like Austin you really have to seek it out. Which I guess is good in some ways, because then you don't take it for granted, and you actively seek out the culture. Although I really miss bagels. Oh my God! In Smoked Sable, you can't get Smoked Sable there anywhere in the whole city, which drives me crazy. So there's a little problem with the deli situation, but
well, I guess that's the worst thing.
Well, I found good blintzes, actually.
Oh, really?
I found really good blintzes. At the Blue Dahlia, it's really good blueberry blintzes.
Okay. What have you seen here at Book Expo that's impressed you?
But I'm still exploring. So, and my favorite part, of course, is seeing the Jewish librarians, Heidi and Etta. who I love. And they're very beautiful, too.
What a flatterer.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you very much, Margot.
Thanks so much, Heidi.
Become a Book of Life fan on Facebook or follow us on Twitter. Email us at bookoflifepodcast@gmail.com and listen to the latest episode by phone at 916-313-3820. And of course, find links to everything at bookoflifepodcast.com. The Book of Life is a podcast service of Congregation B'nai Israel of Boca Raton, Florida at cbiboca.org and is supported in part by the Association of Jewish Libraries online at jewishlibraries.org. Our background music is provided by the Freilach Makers Klezmer String Band at freilachmakers.com. Thanks for listening and happy reading.